to bracket those aspects of society at the time of the writing that were just absolutely terrible and deplorable. Thus, the Federalist Papers can be informative for us if we read them through the lens of the 21st century. So anyways, they have important stuff to say for us. Here's Federalist Paper number 1. The first, more than anything else, is a deep metaphysical statement about what a human being is, what human beings are when they collect together into groups, and the problems that result when human beings collect into groups, and how to solve those problems. Federalist 1 asks the question, are societies of humans capable of establishing good government using reflection and choice, or are societies of humans destined to depend on accident or force, and or force? So there you go. It's the most fundamental question that a group of human beings collecting together to form a social group can ask. Is it possible for us to choose how we are going to be governed? Should that decision be made according to a judicious estimate of the true interests that group of humans faces? Should that decision be made unbiased by considerations not connected with the public good? So here already, before we even get into Federalist 10, let's say, we already have the phrase public good making an appearance. And so that is going to crop up again and again through the Federalist Papers, and therefore through my talking about them. The current debate affects too many particular interests, and it innovates upon too many local institutions. The most formidable of obstacles that the new Constitution that they are recommending faces is the obvious interest of a certain class of men in all states to resist all changes which may diminish the power, emolument, consequence of the offices they hold under the state establishments. All of our considerations should be governed by public good the public good. But that leaves open the question of defining the public good, and everybody's going to argue about that, but at least we can establish that there is a public good to be discussed. But that gets lost in America today. But nevertheless, for the authors of the Federalist Papers, considerations connected with the public good are of utmost importance, and that there are true interests that we as a collected group of humans have. It seems really commonsensical, but here in America it needs to be said. Unfortunately, it's not. The most formidable of obstacles to any change in the current Articles of Confederation, this is so interesting. Shout out to Eddie Bravo and all the conspiracy brothers out there, because it says that the most formidable of obstacles is the obvious interest of a certain class of men in all states to resist all changes which may diminish the power, emolument, consequence of the offices they hold under state establishments. So at the time of writing, there is a current governing structure mechanism. It's called the Articles of Confederation. And under the Articles of the Confederation, there were a certain class of men, a subset of the total group, who received power, emolument, and consequence because of the offices that they held under the state establishments. And the Constitution that they're proposing here, just in the beginning Federalist paper, says that these men who hold these positions are going to lose out, and they're going to argue against it. And that's something that cannot be argued against, that certain individuals would receive certain emoluments and so on and so forth. Boy, and if the picture weren't complicated enough, we are then told of the perverted ambition of another class of men who hope to aggrandize themselves by confusions of their country or prospects of fairer elevation from subdivisions of empire into several confederacies than from union under one government. So we have a certain class of men who hold offices and they are gaining by them under the Articles of the Confederation. And we have another class of men who hope to gain. They hope to enter that subset. They hope themselves to gain. And they hope to gain by having a collection of states that is not united under a federal power. If you have several confederacies rather than union under one government, there is a certain class of men motivated by perverted ambition who believe that they will be able to attain more power more readily under a governing system in which there are strong subdivisions and a very, very weak centrally located locus of power, shall we say. Federalist 1 is a statement about human nature more than it is about America or anything else, because the author goes on to say that you cannot accuse these men of having interested and ambitious views, because that's just kind of part of the nature of being acquisitive white males, I suppose. But continuing on into America and broadening it out, if we're going to broaden the definition of the Constitution to include certain groups of people, then we need to also broaden out this group of men. It's a group of interests. It's also a group of women now, whoever happens to get hired by the people that have the power. But at any rate, you cannot accuse these people of having interested and ambitious views. And even these subclasses of people who are trying to gain power, even these people may have upright intentions. So the picture is getting very muddy very quickly. And this is obviously the author's intention, and you have to read the text to get it. So you can have these powerful people can have upright intentions. Another interesting point, honest errors of minds led astray by jealousies and fears. So you can have an honest error of mind as one thing, and then you've got jealousies and fears as another complex. And so you can have the honest errors of mind without the jealousies and the fears. But when you take those two things together, once again, it's a soup that we're looking at, a very, very dangerous soup that is being cooked for us by our author. Numerous causes which give false bias to judgment, and this is the line that I love the most, I think. And we see wise and good men on the wrong side as well as on the right side of important questions. So the author is recognizing this stew wherein you've got all of the people together, and then you have a subset of those people who are gaining under the current system, and you have still another subset who are motivated by perverted ambition to try to acquire power, and they believe that acquiring power will be easier to do under a less centralized system. So not only do you have that, but you have people on that side of the fence who either currently have power or are going after power, but some of them may have upright intentions. And not only that, you can see wise and good people on both the wrong side and the right side of important questions, which presumes that there is a right and a wrong side, which I believe to be the case. One of our problems is a failure to recognize the exclusive or. It's due to deconstruction, Jacques Derrida, which is, of course, why when you hear Steve Bannon talking about the word deconstruction, my hairs immediately stood up on end. I knew we were being sold a false bill of goods for sure. When you start trotting out French philosophy, then you know you're being sold a false bill of goods. Honest errors of minds are led astray by jealousies and fears. So not all honest errors are dishonest, but it's the case. Interesting point here to make to muddy the waters further. We're going to see these motivating factors play in throughout. Ambition, avarice, personal animosity, party opposition. These forces operate on those who support the right side as well as those who support or as well as those who oppose the right side. So there's a right side to be had. Everybody's disagreeing about it. You got these sets of people who are going after power, And then you've got people who support the right side of a particular issue. And those people themselves are motivated by ambition, avarice, personal animosity, party opposition, as well as the truth. It almost becomes Orwellian right now because the author says that a zeal for energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as despotic power hostile to liberty. So those who are arguing for a successful, efficient, centralized government are going to be accused of not giving enough weight to considerations regarding individual liberty. And that's just not true. You can believe in an efficient government and still hold individual liberties in high regard. And so does this author. But even here in the 21st century here in America, we see this issue playing out over and over and again. And the mainstream media is not helping matters by any means. You can be correct for the wrong reasons. The mainstream media can be seriously flawed, but not because what they're saying is false, but rather because they're not saying what needs to be said. It will be equally forgotten that vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty. Huge point here. Cannot be overstated. We need a strong central government to secure individual liberty. A zeal for energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as despotic power hostile to liberty. You can argue for a strong central government and not necessarily be opposed to individual liberty, but it's very, very easy to accuse people who would desire an efficient, centrally located government, to accuse them of being hostile to individual liberty while that's not so. And it forces the person against whom that accusation has been made to defend themselves against that accusation rather than make the argument that they're needing to make, namely a strong and efficient central government. What's more likely to occur? If you have the strong central government, this is more likely to occur, blah, blah, blah. So the arguments rest upon probability. The author is not coming here and stating that this is 100% the case. They're saying what's more likely to occur. Oftentimes, when people make arguments for the protection of individual liberties, they are motivated by ambition, avarice, personal animosity, and all the different motivations, party opposition. And they're often doing so for popularity at the expense of the public good. Once again, there's a public good there to be had. It will also be forgotten in the times that the author was writing, but also here today, it will be equally forgotten that vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty, that we as individuals cannot achieve without government what we can achieve with. You can have a child, and that child can make all sorts of decisions about what that child is going to be. And that child can make those decisions because we have garbage collectors paid for by taxpayers. Dangerous ambition more often lurks behind zeal for the rights of people than under zeal for firmness and efficiency of government. Now, there is a definite rhetorical move. It's not necessarily true, but he's trying to get agreement. The arguments of all of the Federalist Papers taken together are intended to show the utility of union for political prosperity, the insufficiency of the present Confederation, the necessity of government to the attainment of political prosperity. The adoption of the Constitution will preserve liberty and property. What is up, YouTubers? I figured I'd introduce you to my little doggy, Abby. She's a rescue doggy. Her nickname is Shotgun because she's lethal at short distances. She's got a bum hip, and so she runs with a curve, shall we say. When she runs, her tail looks like an out-of-control empty trailer on the back of a 70s model American truck.